Okay, good evening and welcome to tonight's program called The Spending Plan. We have George Dillman with us from the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities, and he's going to explain to us how having a spending plan will put you on the road to financial success. So, George?
Thank you, Diane. Welcome, everybody. Yes, again, my name is George Dillman. Yes, spending plans, a road to financial success. So, according to Investopedia, a personal spending plan helps you determine your cash flow. It can help you understand how you earn and spend your money. When paired with a financial goals worksheet, for those that got the sample, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. Financial goals worksheet, the personal spending plan can be used to create a roadmap for monitoring your spending and helping you achieve your financial goals. Basically, what that means is we're looking at what's coming in versus what's going out. And our goal is to make sure that we have more coming in than what is going out. I think one of the big reasons why people get into financial trouble is whether they know it or not. Sometimes maybe they don't realize that they have more going out than what is coming in. And this is what we're looking at. We're looking at what is coming in versus what's going out, and making sure that we have more coming in than what is going out the door. We go month after month and we're spending more and more than what we're bringing in, and at some point we can get ourselves into some trouble. On top of that, working those financial goals into that plan, if you will, again. So and even after those goals are worked in, again, making sure that we have more coming in versus what is going out. So this is what we're going to be talking about: goal setting, cash flow and tracking expenses, creating the plan, and monitoring and adjusting it as needed. So we were talking about a financial goals worksheet. We're looking at setting up goals, or what we're going to call SMART goals. What is a SMART goal? That's a goal or a plan that is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and has a time frame to it. And it doesn't have to be anything long and drawn out. It could be something as simple as, I will save $300 in 6 months for a new smartphone. Now, let's take a look at that. Let's make sure it is a SMART goal, SMART plan. Is it specific? I would think so. $300 is a specific number. Is it measurable? I think we could measure that. If anybody disagrees with me at any point, let me know. Is it attainable and realistic? I would think that's up to us. I mean, what we're looking at, and again, making sure more coming in than what's going out, and being able to work this goal as well as other financial goals into that mix, so to speak. So, where am I going to get? I'm looking at saving $300 over the next 6 months to buy that new smartphone. Am I looking at putting $50 a month away over the next 6 months to do that? Can I do that in my current situation? And that's what we're looking. And if I can't, creating a way that we can work that in. So, attainable, realistic, I think is up to us. And then does it have a time frame to it? 6 months. So we do have a time frame with this goal. And when we're looking at goals, we're looking at different types of goals. Short-term, mid-term, and long-range goals. Some of them, sometimes they could overlap, but a short-term goal might be something as simple as that smartphone. Maybe it's a family vacation we're looking to take, maybe a long weekend trip the me and the family are looking to take, or that week-long trip that we'd like to take down to the shore in the summer. A mid-range goal, mid-term goal might be maybe I'm renting right now. Wife and I are currently renting. We're looking to save enough money to put a nice down payment on a house, and we're looking to put that money aside over the next 2 to 3 years, so that we have a good down payment to put down in the house. Or maybe it's a new automobile. Car that I have is running okay, but I'm looking to replace that car maybe in the next 2 years. So am I putting enough money aside to put a nice down payment on that? Or with my trade in and what I save, could I buy a new or maybe a new used car, for cash? That way I don't have any monthly payments. But so that might be a mid-range goal, 2 years, 3 years. And then we're looking at long-term goals, education. I like to key in on retirement, the our retirement goals. We certainly need to factor that into the equation, if you will. I don't think I think most of us, once we get to retirement, are looking to live on something more than Social Security. Unfortunately, there are people out there who, when they do retire, don't have any more than Social Security, or much more than Social Security to live on. So we certainly need to consider that and work that into the equation. How much, where am I going to get the funds, and how much am I going to set aside on a monthly basis for that long-term retirement goal, so I'm not just trying to survive on Social Security once I get there. So when we're looking at cash flow, again, we're looking at what's coming in versus what's going out. And this is kind of going to be my mantra for the whole presentation. The whole idea with these plans is to make sure we do have more coming in than what's going out. And when we're looking at what's coming in, we're looking at income. A lot of us are working full-time jobs. And then if we have something else on top of that, or something in lieu of, but whatever the total is, if I served time in the military, put 20 years in the military, and I have a military pension, or maybe I'm already collecting Social Security and I'm still working a job, whatever total is coming in, total income coming in. And then when we're looking at what's going out, or the outflow, of course, we're looking at expenses. And we're looking at two types of expenses: fixed and variable expenses. Variable expenses, things that can vary from month to month, or that we can change and make vary from month to month. Utilities, for example. I decide I'm going to turn my heat down in the wintertime by 5 degrees, and save myself a little bit of money that way, just by lowering the thermostat 5 degrees. Groceries, those credit cards that a lot of us have, and that get us in, at least some of us, into trouble. And then, of course, we have the fixed expenses. The mortgage, the rent, car payments, car insurance, things we can't really do anything about. We can't really change. Or can we? Here's a question: could a fixed expense also be a variable expense? And here's the examples. It's not all inclusive, of course, but this is the examples of the fixed expenses that a lot of us have: mortgage or rent, car payment. But if I rent, can I find a lower option, a better option, or a lower option somewhere? What I use as an example for this one is my niece and her husband. They moved down to the D.C. area. He got himself a very good job after they both graduated from college. He got a very good job working in the D.C. area. D.C. is very pricey, as I found out through them. Their first apartment that they rented was $2,800 a month. I couldn't imagine paying $2,800 a month for rent or a mortgage, but they're paying $2,800 a month. They quickly realized that they really couldn't afford that amount of money. They made two moves, and in the two moves they cut their monthly rent down by $1,000. They ended up paying $1,800 a month with the second move, saved themselves $1,000 a month. So, looking at car insurance, can we get a better option on our car insurance? We see the ads on TV all the time. Switch to us and you can save money. Change to us and you can change money. I found out with car insurance, a lot of these companies, they give you that introductory rate, and every year, if you notice, your car insurance goes up a little bit. every 5 years or so, I take a look at other companies, and I end up going with another company, saving myself maybe $300, $400, $500 by switching and getting in on somebody else's, intro plan. So we take a look at these things that are considered fixed, or remortgaging a home. Those of us that have a mortgage on a home, they're paying 6, 7, 8% interest. Right now, with the way mortgage rates are, we could remortgage and save ourselves a chunk of change that way. So again, that's the question, not the question, but something to also look at. Gee, I can't do anything about the fixed expenses. Well, maybe you can. Maybe you can. And then they are also variable, and we can do something about that to create that room. Because again, the whole idea is to create that, not only to make sure there's more coming in than what's going out, but to create that extra room that we can plug those financial goals in without having to go into any type of debt, paying our debt down as opposed to creating more debt. We're going to look at tracking our spending. I think a lot of us would be surprised as to what we are spending our money on every month, on a monthly basis. I've had people. I do another presentation called START. It stands for Start Today and Retire Tomorrow. And I talk a little bit about this, about things that we can cut back on to give us those extra funds to put in for our short-term needs and our long-term needs, aka retirement. And every so often I have somebody tell me, I can't make any cutbacks. I don't know where I can find this. I think we all can, and that's why we do the spending trackers, if you will, the expense sheets that are as they're called in the examples that I sent out, or that Diane sent out to everyone. We want to keep track of everything that goes out. Even if it's a pack of gum that I buy, we want to write I give my child 50 cents for something. I want to write that down. You want to track everything that you spend, at least for 30 days. My personal thought is at least for not just 1 month, but 2 or 3 months. In case we have a fluky month that throws us off, maybe track our expenses for 2 or 3 months to see where everything is going. First of all, to make sure we don't have more going out than what's coming in. We do this spending tracker or expense sheet for 2 or 3 months, and oh my God, I can't believe I have more going out than what's coming in, and I'm slowly going more and more deeper and deeper into debt. But also to see where we are spending that money. I think we could surprise ourselves where and how much we're spending, especially sometimes those impulse items. The example I use is chewing gum. Maybe I love chewing gum. Maybe I'm a gumaholic, and I go out on the road a lot. And while I'm out on the road, I'm picking up a pack or two here, a pack or two there, gum here, gum there, and not realizing how much I'm spending on gum until I keep track of it. And I write it down. I think, oh my God, look at what I'm spending every month just on gum. Same thing with the coffee and donut. A lot of people like to have that coffee and donut out on a daily basis. It's just a coffee. It's just one donut. It's $4. But then that $4 adds up as we go out every day and get that coffee and donut, and we write it. We keep track of it and write it down, and we realize how much we're spending on that and maybe other things that we could look at doing something about. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. So we've tracked our expenses for a couple months. Now we know where we are and basically where we want to go. I look at this sheet, and very easy to figure out, well, gee, I know I have this much coming in. We're going to record income, and we're looking at assigning spending allotments, or now we're looking at budgeting, that spending plan or that budget, and assigning a budget or a spending allotment for everything that's going out. The handouts that Diane had sent out, by the way, these are examples of forms that you can use, sheets that you can use. I got those off of the internet. The two of them, as you know, I have two examples. I actually had somebody ask me when I did this presentation one time, well, do we have to use these sheets? No, they're just samples of what you can use. You can certainly find your own. I went on the internet and found these samples. You can go on, and there's a bunch more out there that you could look. You could use some type of software. You could make your own spreadsheet. Me personally, I'm a single person by myself. I I I I don't have a lot to keep track of, and I basically just use pen and paper, and I keep track that way. When I do that expense sheet, and I keep track of everything that's going out, I'm basically just doing pen and paper and keeping it someplace, as well as what I'm budgeting. So bottom line is, however you do it, whatever works best for you, do it. Do it that way, as long as we're doing it, and we know where we're at and where we want to go, where we want to take this. So then we come to creating the plan. And again, you have a couple samples of that plan, of a budgeting worksheet, a spending plan, if you will. And my thought is, some of them do and some of them don't have a budget column and an actual column. My suggestion might be, if I don't think they all have that. My suggestion might be finding one that has that, because then what we can do is we can write down what we're looking to budget every month for that, especially the expenses going out. Obviously, whatever's coming in, we're not budgeting. Whatever's coming in is what's coming in, as far as salaries and maybe some investments we're collecting from, or whatever. But mainly we're looking at what's going out. Obviously, we're including the fixed expenses. If I am renting, I'm paying a mortgage. That certainly is not going to change unless I decide to change it. So budgeted is going to be actual. So we're probably looking at those things that we can change. Again, that chewing gum allowance that I give myself. Packs of gum here, packs of gum there. I with my spending tracker, I've added up, and oh my God, I can't believe I'm spending $60 a month on chewing gum. I just, I priced chewing gum at that big box wholesale club that I belong to, and for the amount of gum that I chew, I can get a whole case of that for $40, and that case would last me for 2 months. So basically, I'd be paying, if I got that case of gum rather than buying a pack here or back there. That's going to cost me $20 a month. So I'm going to budget. I'm going to get that every other month. I'm going to get that case of gum at the big box wholesale club, and I'm going to save, and I'm going to budget $20 a month for that. And now I've cut out $40. I've given myself an additional $40 that might be used elsewhere. Could that $40 be part of what I put away for that new cell phone that I'm looking to get in 6 months? Could it be used for something else? Could that $40 be put into my long-term investment for my retirement? So this is what we're kind of piecing together as we go along. That coffee and donut that a lot of us like to have out on a daily basis. You know what? Maybe I don't need to have that coffee and donut every day. My God, that's cost me $4. I added it up with the expense. That's cost me $120 a month. I think I can cut that in half. Heck, I'll make my own coffee every other day. I've got that nice new thermos that keeps my coffee hot for hours. I'll make my own coffee, take my own pastry, and I'll treat myself every other day. And I'm going to cut that expense in half. So I'm going to budget, rather than $120 for that coffee and donut, I'm going to budget $60 for that coffee and donut. So we put in budgeted amounts. And part of doing this, of course, is to create that wiggle room. Again, that extra room that we can put those financial goals in. Because maybe in my case, I'm looking, again, to save for that new cell phone in 6 months. So I need $50 a month over the next 6 months for that. I'm looking to save for a new car over the next 2 years. So I'm looking to put away X number of dollars every month towards that new car, because I don't want to go into debt, or any more debt than what I have to. So I'm plugging in those funds, that financial goal. I'm looking at my long-term goal as well. I need to put money away every month for my long-term retirement goal. I'm looking, I think at this point, X number. So we're creating, we're making those budgeted amounts, creating that room that we can plug in those financial goals. Now at the end of the month, we're putting in the actual column what we actually spent. And then of course, we're seeing how we did. Maybe again, I budgeted $20 a month for my gum allowance again. And the end of the month, I realized in the actual amount, I spent $40 rather than 20. Well, I walked out the door half the time. I forgot to take a couple packs of gum with me. I ended up having to stop at the convenience store again a couple times, and I went over my budget. So now I have to rethink this, and of course, in my case, sticking to that budget so I can free up that $20 that I wanted to spend, place elsewhere. Maybe with the coffee and donut, maybe, I budgeted $60 a month, but the actual amount maybe came in lower than that. Maybe I realized I didn't even have to go out every other day and get that coffee and donut. Maybe rather than 3 or 4 times a week, maybe I'm treating myself once or twice a week. And I actually ended up spending less than what I budgeted. Of course, then that next month, maybe I can rebudget and put that amount in, and again, freeing up more funds for other things. So check how you did. We basically covered this. And again, I would recommend some of these sheets have a budgeted and actual column. I would recommend using a sheet that has a budgeted and actual column to see how we did. Did we meet our budget for each one of those expenses? Did we come under? Did we go over? So on and so forth. And we write down the difference and see how we did. So sometimes income and debt don't balance. What can we do? Again, it's that mantra. We want to have more coming in than what's going out. And if we don't, what can we do about it? Because again, we have more going out the door on a monthly basis than what's coming in. At some point, we're gonna get into some financial troubles. I think we all know that. We want to put a stop to that. So what can we do? Well, there's 2 things that we can do. All right, we can either increase what's coming in. Maybe I'm in a position. You know what? I got my weekends free. I don't have many hobbies anyway. I just sit around the house. I'll go out and get myself a part-time job on the weekends. Keep busy, make a few extra dollars, and maybe I use that extra salary that I'm getting on that part-time job for all of those financial goals that I need to take care of. So we look at ways that we can increase what's coming in. Maybe my wife and I live in a house, the kids are all grown and out of the house. We have a couple extra rooms, and we decide to rent a room out to somebody that we know and trust, we get along with, and we make some extra. So we can increase what's coming in. And again, a couple different ways we can do that. Just some examples here. Or we reduce what's going out. We take a look at what's going out. Maybe the wife and I love to go out to shows on the weekends. Even here in Harrisburg, we have a pretty decent entertainment scene, if you will. Theater, music, things like that. Maybe her and I like to go out a couple times a month to the theater, to the symphony, and we realize, oh my God, look! Of course, that's added to our expense sheet and added to our budgeted sheet. And gee, can we cut back on that? Can we cut back on that entertainment? Maybe treat ourselves once or twice a month rather than 3 or 4 times a month. Food, transportation, clothing. We see what we can cut back on, what we can reduce. I love using food as an example, by the way. I've read this several times. Sometimes the cheaper options are, I'm sorry. No. Sometimes the cheaper options are the healthier options. And here's the example. Again, I've read several times. I've read where, not only are frozen fruits and vegetables cheaper than fresh fruits and vegetables, but from what the experts tell us, they're healthier. These things get picked, they get flash frozen and bagged, and because they're flash frozen, all of the vitamins and nutrients are locked into the food. and they're there until we, of course, we cook we cook and we eat the vegetables, or we do the same with the fruit. Fresh fruits and vegetables, the longer they sit around, the more vitamins and nutrients they lose. And then on top of that, of course, we get that home, and sometimes, they might have sat around long enough that there's little to no nutritional value left in them. And then in some cases, they sit around too long, we don't use them, and we end up throwing some of this stuff away. Frozen fruits and vegetables, of course, they keep until it's time to use them. So that's just one example I like to use, where we could cut back on an expense, and in this case, even make it a healthier option for us by making that cutback. So we take a look at things that we can cut back on, again, to make sure we have more coming in than what's going out, and to give us that room for those goals, those financial goals that we're looking to hit. So we all know this. We all need the basics. I jokingly tell people that I work for those little luxuries in life, like food, clothing, and shelter. So we all need the basics, and then sometimes, of course, we're looking at we look at wants, and wants go beyond the basics. Increase our quality of life, but then are these things that we can look at? Even even the basics. Can we look at the basics? And we've already talked about that. Options with food, and sometimes the cheaper options are your healthier options. And the clothing, do I need to go out and have a new wardrobe every 6 months? Maybe I go out and get a new wardrobe once a year, or every year and a half. We come up with our own creative ways to cut back. But then, of course, with those wants, we think about things that do we really need that brand new sports car or SUV? Do I need to go out to have a nice meal 3 or 4 times a week? Or could I swap that out for every so often for a lower price meal, or cut out 1 or 2 meals out? Things like that we look at, we can make those cutbacks. Here's the example with the coffee and the donut that I mentioned. Again, $4 a day, and that might be cheap in this day and age, especially if we go to Starbucks. But say we're spending $4 a day. Well, we see how that adds up over 10 days, 30 days, and so on and so forth. So again, I realize that I'm spending $120 a month on a coffee and a muffin every day. Could I cut back on that? Could I cut down on that? Could I swap that out for something else? The big box of muffins that I get at that wholesale club at a much cheaper price than going out and buying an individual muffin every day. Maybe I just cut that out and get the so we look at creative ways, or just cutting back. Do I just treat myself a couple times a week to a coffee and donut out, and then whatever I save, 1 or 2 days a week, and I save $80 a month, and there's $80 that I can do something else with. I can put towards those financial goals that I'm looking at. We're talking about saving, putting funds away. We've talked about the long term. We also need to think about the short term, our short term financial needs, aka an emergency fund, for those emergencies that we know are going to come up. Not if they come up, when they come up, or when they come up. Not to pick on anybody that may be in this situation, but a job loss. A year ago, I'm sure there's a number of people out there that never thought they would have gotten temporarily or permanently laid off from their job. A couple months later, we have this virus, and things start shutting down. People start getting laid off unexpectedly, but it happens. Things happen. I take my car in. I'm looking to get a new car, or maybe a new used car in a couple years, but I still need this one to run and for me to get me to where I need to go. I take it into the shop, and all of a sudden I have this bill for over $1,000. And gee, where am I going to get the $1,000? I guess I'm going to have to whip out that credit card and then pay off that credit card in the next how many months, and of course I'm paying all that interest that goes along with it. So we need to not only think about our long term, because we do need to think long term as well. Again, I don't think a lot of us would be very happy living on Social Security, and for some of us, we have to think if Social Security is even going to be around. So we need to think of the long term, but we also need to think of our short term emergency fund as well. Experts say that we should have at least 6 months worth of expenses in an emergency fund to fall back on. Some experts say as many as 12 months, but at least 6 months worth of expenses to cover those emergencies that are going to come up. We also need to fund that, so we need to work that in with our financial goals. Setting funds aside till we get to at least the amount that we need to cover ourselves for 6 months, maybe 12 months. As you progress and make your spending plan a habit, again, we have to think about funding that emergency account, those other SMART goals that we need to incorporate, again, and not go into debt to cover, and maybe reevaluate our priorities. Again, gee, I need to work. I have 2 more goals that I need to work into my plan without, again, going over, without having more going out than what's coming in. What can I do? What can I change? Is there something else that I can cut out, cut down on, not eliminate, but maybe cut down on. Spending plan isn't worth much if you don't go back and review it. Priorities and goals change. Make sure your money, make sure you monitor and adjust as needed. These things are constantly in flux. Things are always changing. For example, 6 months down the road, I have the $300 that I need for my new smartphone. I'm now taking that off of my financial goals worksheet. I now have the phone. I'm not going to think about adding that back on again for another couple years till I'm ready to get that new phone. Something else comes up. Maybe that emergency does come up. Maybe I do have a temporary job loss, and I have a nice, healthy emergency fund. I have to dip into it, and now I need to fill that back up again. So I need to work that back into my budget. So things are going to come, things are going to go. There's always a flux. Maybe I get a raise, I get an unexpected raise in my job, or I get a new job. And now all of a sudden I'm making an additional $10,000, maybe $15,000 a year, or let's say $12,000 a year. That's easier for me. I'm not very good at math. $12,000 a year. I now have an additional $1,000 a month. Of course, we have to take it to cut out the taxes, but I have maybe $600-800 a month after tax now, additional every month. And what am I going to do with those funds? Do I beef up? Excuse me. Do I beef up what I'm putting into my long-term retirement fund a little bit? Do I take at least part of those additional funds now and beef up that retirement fund a little bit more to make sure that I'm gonna have enough for my retirement? Are there other goals to look at? The summer vacation, the holidays. God, the holidays, we're going through them now. I've read, in fact, I've read several times. Again, experts say that a lot of people spend, after the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever we celebrate, and on top of that, Thanksgiving, New Year's, and some of the things people do. A lot of people will spend the next 3 to 6 months paying off those bills that they accumulate over the holidays. And of course, if we're putting them on credit cards, we're paying that interest, and we're looking at working that out of the equation. So how do we work our holiday fund into our worksheet? So we're not looking at going into debt the following year for that. So again, always in flux, always changing, and we're always looking at how we can, we get those additional funds to put away ahead of time, because we don't want to have that debt. Of course, I think we're all familiar with good debt versus bad debt. Obviously, good debt, like a mortgage, something that we need and probably should have. Of course, the bad debt, like credit cards, this is what we're looking at eliminating at some point, getting rid of any of that bad debt that can just in some cases just get us further and further, till we get into trouble with that. Questions. And I'm going to skip right to, whoops, if I go the right way, to my contact information. Any questions or anything to share with the rest of the group?
Well, George, I'll start.
Yes.
It's pretty inspiring to hear this now, right at the end of the holidays, when
Yeah.
not really a New Year's resolution, but it's like, well, maybe next year I can save more and so that I don't use credit as much. So that's good. But I wanted to mention that, and I'm putting it in the chat there, I'm putting a link in the chat. There's a resource that we have at the libraries. I'm going to share my screen, I think. Let's see. Can you stop sharing?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Okay. I'm sharing my screen, I think. Make sure I got the right one going. There's a resource. I'm going to go back to this one. Okay. On our library's website, I'm going to start there on the homepage. You'll see links across the top of the page, and one goes to e-resources. And if you click on that link and then you click on, say, the business and marketing section, because it just narrows it down. These are all alphabetical and there's pages and pages of them. If you go to business and marketing and go all the way to the end, there's a resource called Weiss Financial Ratings. It's new. We just got it. It starts officially in January, but it's on now. And they have some really good they call them financial literacy tools, but the first one says consumer guides. And these, one of them is finding automobile insurance and one's homeowner's insurance. And I just thought of those when you were talking at the beginning, because they're comprehensive, they're very long. They talk about shopping around, how to get good deals, how you can get the same coverage for vastly different prices. And it's not because they're really any different. It's just what the market is doing. So things change, like the interest rates change. So it's good to always try to update those things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And this is I don't see where, here it is, 49-page document, and you can download it, you can print it, you can do whatever you want. It's free for just all you need is your library card to log in to that service. So I just thought I'd point that out. And I put the link, the direct link to it in the chat, but if you think about it later, you can always contact me. My name's Diane and I'm at the Delaware County Libraries. You can contact me and I will hook you up with that again if you can't remember what I just said.
With that, the automobile insurance, not only shopping around for again, for a better rate. I do that around every 5 years or so, I shop around, because again, as you keep track every year, and you notice how your auto insurance, maybe even other insurances too, will go up. But on top of that, every year, and again, it's all part of that with the financial goals, setting funds aside so that every year when it comes time to renew my auto insurance, I'm sure a lot of us have, or most of us have this option where you can either pay it in full, or you can pay it over a quarterly basis or a monthly basis to break up that bill. You take a look at the difference, because if you're paying it over the next year, you're paying more than if you paid it in full. And I always look at that. And this past year, again, before I paid it in full, I looked at what I saved by not doing, the quarterly payments or the monthly payments, and I think I saved somewhere between $300 and $400. So I mean, and so this is a reason for in some cases for doing, for putting those funds aside ahead of time, because who wants to pay an additional $300-400 over the next year because we can't pay, that auto insurance off all at once.
Right. You can
Yeah.
also do the same thing with like your Verizon bill.
Mm.
That tends to creep up, and you can call them up and tell them that you're thinking about cutting the cord, and they'll get it right down. But I got mine cut by $100 once just by calling and saying this is way too much money, and I'm gonna cut the cord, and so they made it worth my while. And also
Absolutely.
your electric bill, if you we have I think we've signed up for like alternative energy at,
Yes.
and that starts out really low, and then it creeps up and it creeps up, and after a few months you just have to go and look it up again and find a different company that's starting with the lower rate again and just start it over again. So
Exactly.
yeah, so these things, if you just keep up with your utilities, you can cut that price every year or so. You can go in and have it cut back to what it was at that time last year.
Absolutely. Yeah, you exactly. In our area, and that's good because I've done that with cable. And you're right. You know, with different and cable's a good example. Where I live, we do have an option with the cable company. And hey, you know what? If I can't get a better rate, I may need to switch. And I've got my cable bill lowered several times now because of that. So you're absolutely right with that. You know, shopping around.
Mhm.
Um, you know, to save ourselves those funds.
Right.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question for George?
Or anything to add. I
Well,
must have done a perfect job, Diane.
okay. Well, I want to thank George for joining us and giving us this primer on getting our act together financially next year. I'm I'm ready to do it. And if anybody has any questions, be sure and let us know, and we can hang around until everybody else is, uh, ready to hang up. I don't want to
Oh,
be.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. Well, thanks to everybody for joining us.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is that everybody?
Not quite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it
Right.
just us now?
I'm going to stop the recording.
Oh, you were still recording. Okay.
Sure. I wanted to get all the questions in.